Hello and welcome to the second video of the channel. Today we're going to be looking at an old classic. I'm sure everyone and their dog has owned one of these at some point. It is the Boss DS-1 Distortion Pedal. Before we go into the video, just excuse my voice, I'm coming down with a bit of tonsillitis and a cold. Basically been ill the entire festive period, so that has not helped with literally anything. So we'll start with the pedal really, and I'll show you mine. It is a teenage delight basically. It looks like this. It has been used and abused and signed. You may notice there's names and initials dotted around, so there's one there and there's two on the front. The Make History Poor thing as well. This is back during the days when charity wristbands were a thing, and I had the Make Poverty History one, and I got bored one day with some glue, so I decided to put Make History Poor on there because I was a really cool 15-year-old. As you can probably tell. And the names as well. So this pedal's actually been signed by one of my old favourite bands. A band called Reuben. I went to their the signing of their new album at the time, which was In Nothing We Trust, which was a glorious album. Go check it out. I managed to find it on vinyl the other day for 15 quid, which was nice. So I still got to play that one actually. But it's one of my favourite albums of all time. It flows really nicely. It's got some big tunes on there. And I took this to go get signed. So I got the band to sign it. So they basically scribbled their names on it, which is quite nice. So here for now, the DS-1 is an interesting pedal. It was made, I think it was 1978 was the first release. It's recently celebrated its 40th anniversary. It has sold something in the region of 15 million units. So anywhere in the world there are 15 million potentially of these little boxes, and I know that some of them have been absolutely modded to death. I have the Taiwanese version, obviously there's the earlier Japanese versions and stuff like that. I actually have a Build Your Own Clone Orange Distortion as well, which is essentially the same pedal but with the original Toshiba, essentially 8-in-line op amp, and it basically mimics the old Japanese ones, but for one crucial thing, which is that you can dial the pre-gain back. So you can get some really interesting, like chainy bluesy sounds, and you can actually dial in a really good sort of overdriven Biffy Clyro kind of sound, which is really quite nice. But anyway, the old DS-1. So I cracked this out. I haven't used it on my board in what must be about 15 years, so I'm kind of afraid to use this one, just because it's been signed. So I use the BYOC on my board. So it was interesting to crack this out, put it in front of an amp again, and just kind of see what it can do on its own, and what it can do in front of a distortion channel as a boost, that kind of thing. Now, what kind of surprised me was how much I actually liked it. Boss pedals get a rep for just being, you know, crappy Boss pedals or whatever. But you got to remember, I mean, the DS-1 had users such as Steve Vai, Prince, Josh Klinghoffer, Kim Deal, big names who actually put on the board. Obviously, Kurt Cobain was a user until he got hold of a DS2. And yeah, it's one of those pedals that's kind of a staple in modern guitar music. And I think a lot of people kind of, they rip on it and then they'll use one and be like, oh, actually, it's not bad. Which is kind of what I found. I was able to use it for quite a few styles. I used it for a lot of metal. It's got a very thrashy, well, not fizzy, but it's quite a lot of high end in the pedal, so it's quite good for that kind of thrash metal tone. It's also really good for punk, general sort of garage rock. This is, I use a DS1 as something to kind of cover all ground. If you just needed a pedal just to kind of get you through a show or something. They are bomb-proof for starters. All Boss pedals are bomb-proof. It's an interesting pedal. As I say, it's cracking out an original one again and putting it in front of an amp was fun. More than anything, it kind of dragged me back to the days when I used to play in bands and you'd have like less than amazing gear. A lot of the people who I used to play with now are now actually they're musicians, either in the spare time or professionally. And it's amazing to see what kind of gear they've held on to. And some of the, it's little things like this, the stuff that either gets built for you or that you find. I actually had the original receipt for this. I bought it in a now defunct shop called Kingfisher Music, which was in Fleet, I believe. I bought it back then for £54 and I used it originally on bass just to get some kind of, not knowing the difference between a bass overdrive and an, because I kind of wanted something that would kind of cover all ground and I could sort of dial the bass in, and it kind of worked until I kind of got my own bass distortion. So yeah, I used to I used the DS1 on bass and guitar, and it does both really. We talk about what it can do, what it can't do. So it kind of, as I say, it's a general coverall for rock and punk and metal, particularly thrash metal, particularly more sort of punk elements of music, and a very good lead tone as well. Particularly if you dial the distortion back, crank the tone up just a hair, and put it in a bit of a bassy amp. The one I'm using a Night Train 50, the Generation 1, and it has a lot of bass in it already, so it actually kind of fills out the sound quite nicely, particularly for leads. What I would say it can't do, obviously it can't do that sort of sludgy, heavy, doomy, it just doesn't have enough bass in it. At some point I'm going to have an extended range guitar and I'm going to try and plug it through that, and it's not going to be able to do it. I already know that. But it's a fun pedal. It's a little orange box that, everyone would have seen one and everyone would have used one. And I think when you come back to it having a bit more experience with it, I mean, it's the same thing with any fuzz. I remember when I was younger, I used to hate fuzzes. I used to just not know what to do with them. And now I can't tear myself away from them because I've sort of learned how to use them. And it's the same thing with a DS1. A DS1, what everyone used to do, you just crank the tone and the distortion and you would just go ham at it. And you don't anymore. You learn where the limits are and what kind of sounds you sort of want to get out of the pedal. And then you learn how to dial that out. So yeah, it's an interesting effect, an interesting pedal now that I've got a few years experience behind me. And as I say, I kind of, with the BYOC, I'm a bit lucky in that I don't have to worry about the pre-gain. So with this, obviously the pre-gain is always on 10. When you can dial it back a bit, you get some really interesting sounds, but you can't do that with this. You just have to basically plug it in and go. This would save you in a show. If you needed some kind of distortion, it would save you. The audience isn't going to care if you're using a boutique distortion or anything like that. They're not going to go, oh wow, that's amazing. They're just going to hear what's coming out of the amp, and they're not going to go, oh well, it's coming from a DS1, or oh, it's rubbish, why is he doing that? Particularly if you're sort of a thrash band or a punk band, they'll hear this and be like, it's fucking incredible, it sounds massive. One thing I was going to try is using it as a preamp, like a lot of other YouTubers are doing with the Metal Zone. I didn't do that for the precise reason that I tried it and it doesn't really have the same effect. So it doesn't work as a preamp. So if you plug it into the return section of a tube amp and use the power section just to kind of power almost the pedal, it doesn't really work in the same way as a Metal Zone. But plug it in front of any amp. You got an overdrive sound, you've got a distortion sound that's usable, and I think that's really what this pedal is all about. terms of final thoughts and stuff like that, so what do I think this pedal actually achieves? It's, you know, it's a good go-to all-round pedal. It's a good way to cover all grounds, and it's, you know, there's a reason why the Boss has celebrated 40 years of this pedal. It's one of those things I think if one day, God forbid, they decide to actually stop manufacturing this pedal, I think there would be a lot of weird nostalgia going on about, and I think all Boss DS1s, whether they're boxed or not, would probably shoot up in value, all 15 million of them, if they're still knocking around. There's a reason why everyone from, you know, sort of your guys starting out in the bedroom or girls starting out in the bedroom, whoever you are, getting your first guitar and then being gifted your first pedal, it will likely be something like a distortion pedal, and it will likely be a DS1. You know, we talk about, particularly on like forums and stuff, everyone's going for the next big boutique pedal or whatever. Sometimes there is a place for something like a DS1. There is always a place for a nice simple pedal that will just get you in the ballpark. Bands like Gender Roles, you know, sort of when they perform, they use it as a gain stacker in front of a big muff, you know, and they all, you know, it sort of rounds out other pedals, that kind of thing. It's an interesting, you know, the DS1's going to have a legacy when they eventually stop making it. And I think that legacy is that it is all things to all guitarists at some point in their career. Everyone will have a DS1 and everyone will go through playing it. So I've experienced some odd nostalgia coming from this as well. Playing it again kind of brought me back to when I started playing guitar, when I came off of playing bass into playing guitar. And it was one of the main ways that I was able to get a good punk sound, or a good, you know, if I was covering something like Blink-182, Green Day, that kind of thing, I could just basically just get straight in there. And I didn't really have to worry about dialing in an exact tone, but I could get something very close through my little sort of laney Linebacker 30. And, you know, I could pretend I was playing to, you know, thousands in a venue somewhere, and it was great. And I think a lot of people have the same feelings for it. I know obviously, you know, Boss pedals, as they, you know, they do get a weird rap for what they are, which is essentially just, you know, sort of, they're a mass-produced pedal. We can't really get away from that, apart from like the Wazacraft stuff. They're a mass-produced pedal, but that doesn't necessarily make them bad. Boss does something really well, which is that they make pedals which are hard-wearing and sound good, and they're versatile in ways that, you know, you don't really think about. And they're simple. I mean, 3 knobs, you've got volume, tone, gain, and that's all you really need, particularly when you're starting out. But also, I mean, you know, the fact that everyone from your beginner guitarist all the way up to, you know, Steve Vai, Prince, why they all use these pedals is because they're just they get a job done. And also, if they go wrong, you can replace them really easily. So that's my thoughts on what the DS1 is, what it means to the guitar world, and what it'll keep doing. And I think, you know, in years to come, beginner guitarists will still be getting bought a Boss DS1 because it's an easy way for people just to kind of dip their toe into distortion, learn about it, and get good sounds. You know, not everyone's gonna get some kind of boutique distortion. No one's gonna get a Friedman OD for their 12th birthday, that kind of thing, unless your parents are either guitarists themselves or are minted, basically. It's something to aim for as well if you're saving up money when you're younger. As I say, I bought mine for 54 quid from a now defunct shop in Fleet back in the day when I was younger, and it's, you know, the fact I still have it, the fact it meant enough for me to go and get signed by my favourite band, probably speaks volumes in itself. As I say, the enduring legacy for this pedal will be, it will just be around. It will be a constant. It will be something which people still go to. It'll be a good stepping stone, and for some people it's a good live tool. Lots of bands now are kind of coming away, particularly as it gets harder to be a musician in the 21st century in terms of earning money. People are stepping back into sort of budget gear and your old school staples. You know, not everyone has £400 to drop on a delay. Not everyone has 250 quid to drop on an overdrive, that kind of thing. We're getting back into a place where actually getting something that just works hard and does the job is going to be popular again, which is quite a nice circle to come around. You know, your Chase Bliss Audios, your Catlin Breads, that kind of thing, they're always going to have a place, but you know what, they're not going to be the same as just being able to dump 100 quid's worth of pedals on your floorboard and start experimenting. And I think the Boss DS-1 is a testament to that. So yeah, so that's kind of my review and take on the DS-1. I hope it's been even slightly informative. I mean, I imagine I have everyone here from people just go, what does it sound like? You know, new guitarists, or, you know, people who've come back, you know, sort of wandering YouTube and sort of ask, you know, just sort of seeing what people actually think of it. I'm in the middle of trying to write an EP. It will probably find its way somewhere on there. If not this version, the actual DS-1, my BYOC DS-1 will more than likely make it on there somehow. It's a cool pedal. I'd recommend, if you've got 50 quid, $50 lying around, or you can find one cheap for like 20, 30 quid, just pick it up and play with it, just experiment. I'm sure you'll find something in there that you'll actually enjoy and use. If you like the video, please drop a like. If you want to sort of drop your own thoughts and comments on it, your experiences with the DS-1, you know, when did you buy one? When did you, you know, what did you use it for? What kind of, where did it lead you? That kind of thing. Have the discussion. Tell me about it, and I'll endeavour to respond. If you like the channel, you know, I'm relatively new, so, you know, subscribe would be greatly appreciated. If you've got any suggestions, that kind of thing, what you want to see, what kind of things you would like from the channel, toying up with some kind of like, you know, do I do guitar covers and stuff like that? I've got some new gear on the way, which will actually open up some possibilities. So if you like Deftones, then this might be the channel for you. If you don't, then there'll be other things. My own musical tastes are quite wide and varied, so I try to do, you know, sort of wide and varied stuff. So yeah, like, subscribe, notifications, etc., YouTube, blah, 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 blah. Otherwise, I will likely see you on the next video. Take care. Thanks.